Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is another great day to discuss other people's excellence. I'm the unforgettable one himself, Mr. Brett Carroll. I'm just a guy that likes BSN at work. Okay, I got another fun pod for us. This one, if you guys remember, I did a football realignment pod a couple months ago, like maybe back in like November, I think. That's how long ago it was. And I said I wanted to do more pods like that. This was one of the pods I had in mind. Um, just fun pods with discussion pods and stuff like that we could get into. This one we're going to talk about NBA expansion. The NBA is going to expand. We know that. And we're going to rank the top 5 cities that the NBA would, should, or could consider to expand. So let's go ahead and do it. All right. So, what if the NBA expanded? The NBA has been rumored to want to expand for a while, and this does make the perfect time to just speculate and see where they can go. We know there's 30 cities already, or really 28 cities already that have teams, and they're going to look to expand more. I think it's the perfect time to expand because the NBA has never had this much talent before, from top to bottom. If you follow me on Instagram and stuff like that, I've talked about a lot where we're in a realm where there's probably more good players or great players than ever before, where there are a lot more quote unquote superstars, to the point where we need to have a new leveling scale for how good a player is, because there's so many great players and almost every team has at least one young star on it already. Um, and they can do it. So the talent pool's been amazing, and it's a far cry from what they were a decade ago. I remember literally in 2013, the NBA was in trouble because the teams were so bad that most of the bad teams in the league, they didn't even have NBA quality players on there. Like, if you look at those Nets teams back then, if you look at those Cavs teams back then, Pistons, Hornets, they had guys that would be G League players, not only on the roster, but starting. Like, that's how bad some of the teams were in the league. The talent pool just was not great. Now, I think there's a very, very, very healthy amount of players where every team has, even the bad teams, they have NBA talent on the roster. Again, most teams have at least one young star to build around. Um, and so they can definitely expand. And in this scenario, we're gonna do 34 teams. So let's do it. And why 34? For one, like I said, the NBA can handle it. They have so much talent that they can expand 4 more teams, and I think we'll be fine. NBA rosters are very small, so it's not like a football team where you're fielding 53 men on your team plus practice squad players and everything else. Like, no, I think rosters are like 10 to 15. I'm sorry, 12 to 15 people. They can easily expand to 4 more teams. They'll be fine. And if anything, it'll give more guys opportunity. I mean, think about guys like DeMarcus Cousins and Isaiah Thomas. Carmelo had to retire because he just can't get a job anymore, when we know he can still play. But again, there's just not a fit for him because there's just not enough space. So if anything, this will give more guys a legitimate chance of playing. Um, and then also the reason why we know we're going to go to 34, because we know who the first 2 teams are. It's Vegas and Seattle. We know that. It's highly speculated / rumored. Like, David Stern, one of the last things he said before he left as commissioner, and rest in peace to David Stern, is he promised Seattle would get a team, right? He promised that. And to the NBA's credit, they have tried. Remember, Sacramento was on the doorstep of going to Seattle. When the Clippers were sold, especially because Steve Ballmer got them and he's from Microsoft, which is in Seattle, there was a lot of speculation that he might take the Clippers to Seattle. He decided to move. He decided to stay put in LA. And there's been some other teams that whenever a team is up for grabs, people are going to say, "Oh, are they going to move to Seattle?" So the NBA for sure is going to give a team in Seattle, but we also know everybody has heard that they want a team in Vegas really bad. Vegas is the hot spot right now. And it's ironic because sports gambling is now legal everywhere, basically. Vegas is the hotbed. Before it was the play. No sports franchise league would touch Vegas. Now everybody wants to be part of Vegas. The Athletics are about to move to Vegas. The Raiders are there now. The WNBA already has the Aces, so they want a Vegas team, but they know they can't put another franchise in another location without Seattle getting a franchise. So what I think they're going to do is they're either going to go 2-2, so they're going to announce Seattle and Vegas in the same year, and then a couple years later add another two teams, or they might go for all four cities right away in one swoop. Either way, we know Seattle and Vegas are going to be the first up to bat, and therefore this video wouldn't be fun if we just did 32. So we got to go to 34. And so here's where we're going to see the other two cities. All right, so let's go over the rules. We got accessible criteria for the type of cities we're looking for. This will determine which the cities that can make the list, as well as how high they'll be on the list. The top choices combine all the criteria for this list. So basically, if you're number one, you're basically checking off every single box. Okay. Criteria one is there's got to be a city with no other or only one other major sports team. The NBA loves finding undertapped markets and dominating them. We know this. They only want to be the best or, the only show in town. Half of the Western Conference alone are made of upper teams like this, as well as teams like Orlando in the Eastern Conference. I meant to actually put up a list of all the teams, but yeah, I mean, OKC, San Antonio, Portland, Utah, Sacramento, Memphis. You know what I mean? Like, so, and there's one more I think in the Western Conference. I can't think of right now. But yeah, basically literally half of the Western Conference is teams that don't even have any other sports league in it, or if they do, it's one other sports league. And then, like I said, Orlando in the Eastern Conference. So that's what they like to do. They want to be the only show in town. They want to make sure that people are going to show up and make sure that people are going to, partake in their product, and that makes sense. So this is the number one criteria because that's what they're going to want to do. The only exception is if it's a major sports, but more specifically basketball market. They want to be the biggest show in town, and they will share the spotlight if it's a major city or if they know it's a place that just loves basketball, where even if there is other places around, they feel that they can dominate. They feel like they can be the number one team in town. So as long as it's a big basketball market, they'll consider it. Otherwise, they're going to look to go somewhere where no one else is because that's what they want to do. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to be looking more towards East Coast teams for a number of different reasons. One, Seattle and Vegas are already going to get teams in this scenario. And so you don't want to have all four spots in the Western Conference because it does a lot of different things. So for competitive balance, you don't want that because you can't have one conference with four expansion teams and another conference that two cities. So what would happen is, let's say it's four cities in the West. They'll probably put Seattle, Vegas, two others. They would probably just move Memphis and New Orleans over to the the Eastern Conference. The problem with that is, again, the Eastern Conference is going to be much better than the Western Conference because you have four expansion teams in one conference, and then you have another conference with all NBA teams, and then the two teams you moved over are two good teams. Right now, Memphis was in the playoffs; they were the 2 seed. Uh, New Orleans is an up and coming team. They were in the play-in. They made the playoffs last year. So you know what I mean. So you're literally moving two playoff teams over to one conference and putting four expansion teams in another one. Again, that's just not good for a competitive balance standpoint. And then it doesn't make it for a marketing standpoint either. If you're gonna have four shiny new toys, you kind of want to market them as in this conference is getting to, this conference is getting to. You don't want to basically say, oh, this conference is getting 4 shiny new toys, and then the other conference is getting 2 retreads. You know what I mean? Especially since they're not bigger markets. Yes, I know they're playoff teams, but we know how the NBA works. It's weird. They do cater to big markets, they cater to superstars and stuff like that. So even though they want to dominate smaller markets because they'll make their money that way through ticket sales and stuff like that, marketing wise, they still market the bigger markets. So you don't want to, again, give one conference 4 shiny new cities to market, and then the other conference doesn't really have much to go off of in terms of a marketing standpoint. So it doesn't make sense. And then also in the Western Conference, they've kind of hit all the major cities. So it's not, one of those things where they're getting Seattle, they're getting Vegas. There's not another city on the West that's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're not in this city. They have to go to the city, unless you're going to flood California or Texas, which doesn't make sense. The NBA doesn't want to do that. And I don't think they want to do another random city in the West. Again, even though they want to dominate a market, I still think they're going to have a lust for a bigger market than just some city, random city. They're not going to do like El Paso or something like that. So, we're going to look at the East Coast because there are a lot of East Coast / Midwest cities that could use some NBA teams. And so that makes the most sense. And then also in the last one, we want to see if we create new rivalries. Again, marketing. The NBA likes its rivalries. I've always said that's part of the reason why the regular season isn't as good as it used to be, because some of the rivalries have kind of toned down, and so it's not to the playoffs that we get to see some of these rivalries get renewed. But either way, you want to create instant friction. You want to create instant chaos between 2 cities and 2 fan bases. I don't know if you can hear these kids screaming outside. I don't know what they're doing, but I hope you can't hear that. But like, my God, somebody come get their kid. But yeah, like that's what you want. They love the drama, they love the instant marketability. So being able to put a team in a city that will instantly have some smoke with another team, that's the icing on the cake. Again, it's probably the least most important, but it's something that you got to at least consider. It's something, like I said, it's more like an icing on the cake type of thing. Yeah, and you also want to do it without killing another city's market value, right? So again, that's another reason why they're going to try to go for places that are untouched. You don't want to put too many cities close together because you don't want to kill some other team's fan base already. But if you can find something that is close enough where there's already a rivalry between those cities, while not cannibalizing the market, there we go. So that's the 4 criteria that we're going to go with. All right. So, first one, honorable mention, Nashville. Here's why it works. It fits a lot of the criteria. It's growing in population. They want more sports. The ML, Major League Baseball is already considering Nashville. The Titans are about to get a new stadium. It's a place that is booming right now, and they like their sports, and so it makes sense. And then you have a nice fun rivalry with Memphis, something we've never seen at major sports level, right? So any team, it's been Nashville, no Memphis, or Memphis, no Nashville. So to have a league that has both Memphis and Nashville, that could be really fun. That could be something that works. That could be a really intense rivalry that that we can see it on a major level, and it'll be cool. It'll definitely be cool. Um, Here's why it doesn't work though. One, it could be a lot going on in Nashville at one time. If they do get a new football stadium, as well as a new basketball arena and a new baseball park, like, who's paying for all that? You know what I mean? I know the taxpayers won't want to pay for all that. it would raise the price of that city up tremendously. And I think a lot of people are moving there because it's cheaper than moving up north or somewhere else. You don't want to instantly make it somewhere that's no longer a destination because you're outpricing people's ability to live there, right? Um, so that's one thing. One, even though it's a great sports city, I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm just not sure of how big basketball is down there, where it would make sense to basically overflood that market. Um, because I'm taking in consideration the Grizzlies, I'm taking consideration the Pelicans, um, as well as some other teams in the area. I don't know if putting a team in Nashville overstimulates that market. You know what I mean? Like that's a really big baseball part of the country. It's a really big football part of the country. I'm not quite sure if basketball is big enough where there is a thirst for that, where they won't cannibalize each other, especially since New Orleans already kind of has attendance issues when they're not good. When they're good, they're fine, but when they're not good, it's been an issue. I think Memphis will be fine, but I just feel like either the Pelicans would be in trouble or that Nashville team would be in trouble. So that's why it probably doesn't work. Um, and then two, and then three, I don't again because of basically parts one and two combined of this. Part three is if they get a basketball team, I don't think they'll be the biggest show in town unless the Titans are really bad and the baseball team's really bad and the basketball team's really good. I don't see the NBA team being the team that's going to dominate that market. I think they'll play third fiddle to the Titans and to the baseball team, which again, the NBA does not want. They're not going to a city to play stepchild. You know what I mean? They're going to a city to hopefully dominate, maybe come second fiddle to another team. But even then, that's because that second fiddle is still good enough for them to eat. So again, I don't. That's why it's an honorable mention. It'll be a fun place to look at, but again, I really, 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 really love the idea of them together with Memphis, but I just don't think it will work, especially if they're getting baseball as well. So that's why it's an honorable mention. Second honorable mention, New Jersey, baby, specifically Newark, specifically Newark. Man, let's get into it. I got a lot to say about this. Okay, why it works. It fits most of the criteria. Most. That's the we'll get to that. It checks off a lot of boxes. New Jersey loves basketball. We love basketball. If you're from here, we live, breathe, and eat basketball. The way Florida and Texas and Ohio loves football, that's how we love basketball. We crave basketball. We can't get enough basketball. So we deserve a team of our own that we could call our own. And yes, it's a crowded market, but it's the biggest market in the country. Millions of people live here, and there's plenty of love and money to go around because we love basketball, especially because we love basketball. And here's what I mean by that. Let's take the National Hockey League for instance, right? Let's just count the amount of teams that are in this market, the greater Atlantic metro market. Okay. So you have Washington with the Capitals, you have Philly with the Flyers, you have New Jersey with the Devils, you have two teams in the cities. So Manhattan has the Rangers, Brooklyn / Long Island has the Islanders. Okay. Then you have an upstate New York team in Buffalo, and you have a Boston team, and you have a Toronto team. Okay. That's 8 teams all within like 8 hours of each other, from Washington to Toronto. That's 8 teams. Okay. That's 2 divisions worth of teams all within this crowded area. And that's hockey. You know what I mean? Like that's hockey. And besides the Toronto, Buffalo, Boston area, hockey's not the top priority in this area. It's basketball and it's football. So if hockey can survive with that many teams in this area, don't tell me the NBA can't. You know what I mean? So for people that are saying, oh my God, you can't overflood the market, yeah, the hell you can. If you put a team in Newark, New Jersey, it would be fine. But Brett, they were in New Jersey. They weren't doing well. That's why they left. Yeah, but understand we're in a better location. Okay, we're in a better location. This is not the Meadowlands. I would never, as much as nostalgic as I am, as nostalgic as a lot of people. I know people. Okay, I know people that say not only bring a team back, but put them back at the Izod Center. Okay, no, we're not doing that. The Meadowlands is not a good location for a basketball team. There's nothing to do out there. The traffic is horrible. It's hard to get to. And it works for football because it's once a week. You're not doing that 4 or 5 times a week for basketball. That doesn't work. Put it at the Prudential Center, downtown Newark. Newark has been thriving. The train station's right there. It's easy to get to. There's more stuff to do that down there now. New Jersey was not good for basketball before. It's a perfect place for basketball now. So that's where it works. Now, here's where it doesn't work. It's not their style to do it. Again, even though they technically can flood the market, they're not going to flood the market. And New Jersey team by itself would not be the big dog on campus, so it doesn't even make sense to flood that market. Again, hockey can do it. If the NBA ran itself like the NFL, they would definitely do it. But the NBA, that's not their style. They're not going to do it. They just won't. That's why it's an honorable mention. I mean, if the NBA was like the NFL, not only would New Jersey not be an honorable mention, it would be probably number one on my list. And you could call me biased all you want to. I think it would make sense, but that's just not the NBA style. They're not going to do it. So yeah, even though it could overcome it, the NBA wouldn't do it. The second problem is the Nets. It's still too soon. Remember, this is only the 10-year anniversary of them moving to Brooklyn. Most of their fan base are still New Jersey Nets fans that have migrated over to Brooklyn. And so if you put a team in New Jersey, it would either kill the Nets or it would kill the New Jersey team. Because if you put a team back in Jersey and let's say 90% of the fans that came over to Brooklyn are New Jersey natives that want to go back to Jersey to support their team, especially now that the 7-Eleven era is gone. There's nothing really in Brooklyn holding people there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a diehard Nets fan. Been Nets fan my whole life. If they put a team in Jersey, I would highly consider switching teams. I would highly consider switching teams because at the end of the day, I'm going to rep Jersey till I die. And at the end of the day, if there's a team in Jersey that I can root for, especially where I live, I mean, shoot, it's right down the street. Yeah, my nostalgia is for the Nets, but like, it is what it is. Now, if the Nets would have won some championships or stuff like that, I can see a lot of people not switching over because it's like, well, hold on. I spent my whole life trying to get a championship. Now my team has a championship. I'm not about to go to some expansion team that doesn't have a championship. You know what I mean? I can see that being an issue, but the Nets don't have a championship. They're just another franchise. So again, if you put another team back in Jersey, I can see where the most fans who are New Jersey fans really will come back to the New Jersey team, and that could cripple the Brooklyn Nets, and you don't want that. Yeah, you just don't want that. It would kill the Nets fan base, or it would kill the New Jersey fan base before it even had a chance. You know, you don't want it. The only way it would work is if it didn't happen for another 10 to 15 years, maybe even more. Let Brooklyn continue to establish its own thing, its own culture, its own, its own fan base, where even if they put a New Jersey team in there, and even if a majority of people switched over to the New Jersey team, there's still enough Brooklyn Nets fans that are nostalgic for Brooklyn, that's been with Brooklyn long enough where they wouldn't jump ship. You know what I mean? That's the only way it would work. Um, and maybe more than that. Maybe it might have to be another 20 plus years before that happens. But basically, the only way it would work is if you gave Brooklyn enough time to keep establishing itself as its own entity and not have to rely on New Jersey. Um, or if you put it in a different city, which could work, but I just don't think another city in New Jersey makes sense. Trenton could be a thing, but Trenton isn't as up to date as Newark is right now. I actually love Trenton from a architectural standpoint. I just think it's a really unique city. It's right there on the river. Um, you could make the argument it's too close to Philly, but I think it'll be fine. But I just don't think Trenton works. Atlantic City would be perfect, except Atlantic City is in the middle of nowhere. It's far away from most of the people in New Jersey. I think that's another people don't understand. The bulk of New Jersey is Northeast New Jersey, right? That's where most people live. Newark is the biggest city. Most Bergen County is the biggest county. So most people, if you live in New Jersey, you live in Essex, Bergen, Passaic, Hudson, Union County. So what makes up North Jersey, that really is the bulk of the population of New Jersey. So if you're going to put a team in New Jersey, you kind of have to put it there. If you put it in Trenton or Atlantic City, it's just too far. So like Trenton from me is like a little bit over an hour, like an hour 15, hour 20. But that's for me. And also consider where I live. I can hit the parkway very easily. I can hit the turnpike very easily. If you live in Bergen County, or some other place, it's even further, right? And you might not be able to hit those the parkway or the turnpike as easily. So that's a little bit too far. Atlantic City is 2 hours from me, and that's with no traffic. Okay. Every time I've been to Atlantic City, it's at night when there's no traffic, and it's legitimately 2 hours away. And again, I can hit the parkway very easily. And if it's 2 hours away from me, just imagine the people in Bergen County and Hudson County and all these other places. So that's the point. You can't put something in New Jersey that's not going to be in a centralized location where most people can get to. Newark is right there. Like I said, Newark Penn is right there. You're almost anywhere in New Jersey. You can hop on the train and get to Newark Penn very easily. It's just easier to get to. And again, you're not going to go down there for basketball, again, multiple times a week. Football, I would love to see a football team in Atlantic City. So, like, let's just say, for sake of argument, the Jets were to say, you know what, we want to establish our own thing. Everybody calls us the Jersey Jets anyway. We're going to call ourselves the Jersey Jets, and we're going to build a brand new stadium in Atlantic City. I think that could work, especially when you play on Sundays. So you have people that will go down to Atlantic City and make a weekend of it, right? If you play on Monday, again, you can make a weekend of it. Even if you play on Thursday, you can make a weekend of it. You know what I mean? Like, so football would work because people would go down there once a week to see the Atlantic City Jets or whatever. Basketball just not going to work. You're not going there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday every week. You're not doing that. It just doesn't work. And so that's why, as much as I would love my beloved state to get a team back, it's just not going to work. But again, if the NBA was greedy like that to try to bank on that, and if this was a couple years more down the road, I'm telling you, Newark would be number one on this list because it makes too much sense. All right, so let's get into the list. Oh, here's some other honorable mentions. Vancouver, it works because Canada loves basketball right now. There's a history. Um, and it's the other West Coast team that does make sense to me. Um, why it doesn't work is, like I said, West Coast. It's far away from Toronto and all the other potential Canada candidates. Um, Jacksonville, why it works, is a really large city. People don't realize Jacksonville, I think, is a top 10 city in terms of population. At least last time I checked, if not top 15. So technically it's a big market. It fits just about all the criteria. The reason why it doesn't work is it's a third team in Florida. Again, I just don't think that's the NBA style to try to just overpopulate certain markets. So it's got the New Jersey issue. And then you got to worry about attendance issue. Florida's really iffy because it's an entertainment state, and because it's an entertainment state, and it's a I forgot what the word a transitional state. I can't remember the word, but it's well one tourist state that again that goes with the entertainment portion of it, but basically because there's so much to do in Florida and because people are a lot of in and out people in Florida, you always got to worry about attendance. Are people going to show up? The team's going to have to be really good for people to show up. They're not going to be just an average team and sell out every night. Again, that's not the NBA's MO. So that's why it doesn't work. Same with Tampa Bay, same thing. Um, Tampa doesn't fit enough of the criteria because it's not going to be the only show in town. At least with Jacksonville, the only other team you're dealing with are the Jaguars, and they don't do enough to even, again, if the Jacksonville basketball team was good enough, it probably could be the number one team in the city. But then again, now that Jacksonville has Trevor Lawrence, I doubt it. But still, it's Tampa Bay. It doesn't work. Um, yeah, it has all the downside of Jacksonville, but none of the upside. So those are some other honorable mentions. I just figured I'd throw them out there just in case people. So what about this city? What about that city? They're here. All right. Number 5, Montreal or Ottawa. Okay, why they work. Both cities fit the criteria. Like I said, Canada loves basketball. Vince Carter and the Raptors have made basketball a beloved sport in Canada. We're seeing so many more players from Canada. The NBA wants to go global, and Canada. We sometimes forget that Canada counts as being global, but it does. It's a different country. Um, the Raptors winning a couple years back made basketball mania in Canada even bigger. So using those cities work. Um, and then it'll create a rivalry with Toronto, which would help even more. And like I said, expands the game globally, and we know the NBA wants to do that. We know the NBA wants to do that. Why it might not work and why it's number 5 on this list is one, Canada is very expensive. Um, So it would change a lot. Most American players won't want to play there. Again, that might not be as big as an issue because the NBA has become such a global league and more players are coming from all overseas, so they probably won't care. But still, there's a lot of American-born players playing in the league, obviously. And so attracting those type of players to want to play for either one of those cities might be tough. So you got to think about that. Um, and the other problem is it's really far north. It's really far north. You're away from most of the other teams. It's freezing cold. You got to remember most of this season being played in the wintertime. Again, it all contributes to why most players wouldn't want to play there. Um, and it's just far away. It's far away from a lot of the other cities. It's close enough. You know what I mean? So it's not Vancouver, obviously. It's close enough, but it is really far. And so it makes it very tough. Number 4, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, or Columbus. As you're going to see, I kind of put a bunch of cities, even though it's a top 5, I put a bunch of cities together on this roster because they all kind of fit the same niche. So it's one of those things that you can pick any one of, like I said, Montreal or Ottawa, it doesn't matter. It's still the same reasons why they work, the same reasons why they don't work. Same here. These kind of fit the same niche. So you'll see for most of this list, there are more than one city being put together. So why it works? Okay. It fits a big niche of the East Coast / Midwest market. There is a really large part of the country that the NBA is not really touching right now. These teams could kind of fit some of that. Um, Pittsburgh's a great sports town. I think Mark Cuban would raise his hand in a heartbeat to do it. He's from Pittsburgh. He's been trying to buy the Pirates. Um, you know, now granted, he'd be leaving Dallas, which is a much bigger market, to go to Pittsburgh, but still, I think he might do it. But it has an intense rivalry with Cleveland and Philly already, so it would work. Um, So that's the reason why Pittsburgh makes sense. It's a great sports town. Like it really is sports town USA. There's nothing but legends from the three sports teams that are already there. It just works. Cincinnati already has a rivalry with Indianapolis and Cleveland, so that would work. And we've never seen. I pointed it out in the when I did my NFL realignment pod, where we haven't really seen that in the pros yet. We haven't really seen the Cincinnati Indianapolis rivalry really kind of take shape and take form. So that's why I figured this really makes sense. I want to see it. I really want to see it. It gets me excited to think of a Nashville Memphis rivalry. This actually has me very intrigued to really see a Cincinnati Indianapolis rivalry on the big stage, and it would make sense. Um, and yeah, they don't, as well as Cleveland, like they don't have their battle for Ohio the way other sports leagues do. I think they should have that. Ohio does like basketball. Again, not as big as some of these other places, but they like basketball. I think obviously LeBron and Steph being from Akron has also uh, made the appetite for basketball even bigger, especially in the Cleveland area, but throughout the state of Ohio, because right now Cleveland is the only team in Ohio to root for. So it makes sense. And then for Columbus, it is the capital of Ohio. A lot of people don't notice it's the biggest city in Ohio. It's smack dab in the middle of the state, so that helps in terms of fan base. You can get fans from all over the state, so to go to Columbus and watch a game. Um, and it does have an NHL and MLS team, but I do think the NBA team could be the biggest player in the professional market for them. If they put an NBA team there, I gotta believe that would do better than the Crew and the Blue Jackets. Like that's just me. Okay, why they might not work. Even though Pittsburgh is a great sports city, I don't know if they care about basketball that much. I definitely think if you put a basketball team there, it would be the least attractive team. And that's considering the Pirates never turning around. Because when the Pirates are good, they love the Pirates. Matter of fact, even if the Pirates were bad, they would love the Pirates. What people don't realize is the owners of the Pirates are just cheapskates, and they've been like very vocal about that, and they've been very honest about the fact that they just don't want to spend money and they don't feel necessary to spend the money. And because of that, Pittsburghers are like, well, look, or Yinzers, I'm sorry, Yinzers are like, well, wait a minute, we're not about to spend our hard-earned money to watch a team that not only is bad, but is bad on purpose because you don't want to spend the money. If the team was just bad just because they're just going through something, they would still go out in droves to support the Pirates. They love the Pirates out in Pittsburgh. Again, they just haven't been that good for a long time because the owners purposely don't want them to be good. And therefore, Yinzers are not about to sit there and spend their hard-earned money supporting a team that's not trying to spend. If you're not going to spend money, why should we spend our own money? Type of thing. So because of that, God forbid the Pirates are returning around. So now you're definitely talking about being the fourth team at best in that city. And even if the Pirates don't turn around, you're going to be the third team in that city behind the Steelers and behind the Penguins. Again, doesn't make sense to do it. Um, Same with Cincinnati. That is a baseball town. Nothing will ever top the Reds. They love their baseball. The Bengals, when they're not good, they don't get butts in seats. And yes, they have Joe Burrow. Yes, they're a really good team. So yes, they're getting support. But it's one of those things where if the basketball team is going to be relevant, they're going to have to be like a perennial contender, or else they're going to struggle. So that's why I don't think it would work. And then for Columbus, unfortunately, nothing will be bigger than Ohio State. To me, that's ridiculous that the college has that much of a stranglehold over a city, but it does, and that's the truth. And so at the end of the day, if you got to compete with a college team for fans, I just don't think that's going to work. Um, Out of three, I think Columbus could work the best, technically, but yeah, I don't see it happening. That's why they're number four. Number three, St. Louis or Kansas City. Okay. They're both great sports cities with a rich history. I believe both of them had at least a team at one point. So there's a history there. Um, there are some competitors, but not as much. Like St. Louis has the Cardinals, and that's it. Kansas City has the Chiefs and the Royals, but still not as bad as some other cities. They do fill that niche of that Midwestern part of the country. And the potential rivalry, some of the other Midwest cities would be intriguing. We have, again, the NBA is kind of missing out on that section of the country getting some of those rivalries have been, I suppose, sports leagues have been able to do. Okay, the reason why it might not work, um, the NBA probably won't be the top dog. You know, St. Louis is a base like Cincinnati. The Cardinals will always be the biggest team in St. Louis. They do have the Blues, by the way. The St. Louis has the Blues. I want to mention that, but still, a basketball team would probably at best be second fiddle to the Cardinals. I don't know if the NBA would be okay with that. And right now, as long as Patrick Mahomes is in Kansas City, nobody's beating out the Chiefs in Kansas City. Again, I don't think the NBA will be okay with that. You can make now Kansas City probably makes more sense because, well, it kind of works because baseball isn't played the same time as the NBA at all, and then football is done right towards the middle of the basketball season. So it could technically work, but still, if you're competing for people's money, you don't want to take the chance of, hey, listen, there's a lot of blue collar workers, it's a lot of middle class families. You know, if we can only spend so much money on a sports team, it's going to be this team and not your sports team. You never want to put yourself in that position. Um, but I do think it's possible for them to be the second best in that city. Again, if you're only worried about the Chiefs and if you're only worried about the Cardinals, it could work. Question is, will the NBA be okay with that? They want to be the big dogs on campus. They want to go to places where they can dominate. So we'll see. Number 2, Baltimore or Virginia Beach. Okay. It's another basketball crazy part of the country. Um, again, I put it up there with New Jersey, North Carolina, like that whole section. We love our basketball. And so it works. Um, Virginia Beach is completely untapped. There's no other teams there. It's a growing market. I think the MLB is also looking into Virginia Beach. I don't see why the NBA wouldn't as well. It would make sense. Baltimore has the Ravens and the Orioles. I understand that. But again, basketball is such a big part of the culture in this area of the country that if the basketball team's good enough, to me, there's no reason why they wouldn't be number one. I understand the Ravens. I understand the Ravens. I understand the Orioles. But again, when you have a basketball crazed part of the country, as long as you're fielding a decent team, I think they could be the biggest draw in the city. I really do. I really think they could be the biggest draw in the city. Because again, if they stink, that's different. If they stink, maybe not. But if they're a good team, and I don't even think they have to be a perennial contender. I just think if they're a good team, I think people would absolutely support them. I really do. I really do. Um, and then both teams already would have a rivalry with the Wizards. Baltimore in particular, why don't we have a battle of the beltways in the NBA? Again, don't tell me it doesn't work. It works in other places. It works in football. It works in baseball. And again, if it's working in football and baseball, and I'm telling you that basketball is the biggest sport in that part of the country, then it can work. It works in baseball. It works in football, right? You know, make it work. You can make it work. I don't know what they would call the team in Baltimore. Probably stick with the bird theme. I don't know. I don't know what that would be, but still, it works. Make it work. The only reason why what might not work is again same issue with Jersey. The NBA just not wanting to overstimulate the market. So again, just look at this right here. All these teams in the area, but again, the NBA is less than some of those others. So again, there is no Baltimore team, there is no Jersey team, there is no Buffalo team. You see what I'm saying? So like, I don't think adding a team, Baltimore works more than Jersey because Baltimore isn't taking away from another NBA team, whereas New Jersey would take away from the Nets, right? That was the biggest thing with putting a team in Jersey is you are cutting into the Nets fan base. Um, Baltimore wouldn't do that. I think the Wizards would be absolutely fine. I don't think a Baltimore team would completely kill the Wizards. That's just me. But like I said, if you're including Toronto, you're missing three markets. You're missing that Jersey market. You're missing that upstate New York market. You're missing that Buffalo market. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's only 5 teams or 6 teams in this area. No, wait, right? Am I counting right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, there's only 6 teams in this area, and you're missing Baltimore, Jersey, upstate New York. I think it could work. I really do. I really do. Virginia Beach fits more the criteria in terms of it being an untapped market. It's further away from DC. I think Virginia Beach is like 3.5 hours away from DC. So you're definitely not cutting into that market. You're definitely doing your own thing. And it's still far enough away from Charlotte where it can survive on its own. Um, Baltimore makes more sense because it's proven. And like I said, it already has the built-in rivalry with DC. But Virginia Beach has a much more better chance of the NBA wanting to do it. But I really think this should be a highly considered. It's number 2 on my list, but realistically, I can make a case for it to be number 1. Again, I just don't see the NBA having an appetite to do it. I think the NBA looks at this and gets cringy because they just see too much cluster. They want to be spaced out. But again, I think that's a mistake, but that's just me. And so, that's where I could see the hesitation. Virginia Beach makes more sense, but to me, Baltimore makes. I put Virginia Beach and Baltimore because they fit the same niche, but to me, Baltimore would be the pick. All right, number 1, Louisville. It's got to be Louisville. It fits all the criteria. Another crazy basketball state / part of the country / part of the country that's not being fulfilled enough. Has 0 professional sports teams, so it will dominate the market. It would have an instant rivalry with the Pacers and other Midwest cities and states. But Indiana also loves its basketball. And so to me, it would make a huge rivalry between the two cities, and I would love that. Um, and they're not that far from each other. They're not that far at all from each other. And so, and it doesn't need a new arena. Some of these other places, you're going to need to build a new arena. The KFC Yum Center, even though it's a stupid name, it's already has an NBA size arena, and it works. It just works. The only reason why it might not work is you have the Ohio State issue going on where would it usurp Louisville and Kentucky? The college teams are so big. Would you run into a situation? And unlike some of the other things we're talking about, we're still talking about basketball, right? Louisville basketball, Kentucky basketball. So they're right in the same season as you, which could be an issue, right? Are you afraid that families would spend their money to go to the college games and not to your professional team? That's where the issue might come at hand. But to me, it's possible, but I doubt it. I doubt it. They love basketball. Um, and again, I bring up Indiana because that's a big part. Indiana loves basketball. They support their college teams and they support the Pacers. So why can't it be both? Same with Jersey. We support our college teams and we support the local team, the sports teams. So why couldn't it be both? I think the same thing could happen with Louisville. And again, I bring up Indiana. Indiana has the Colts, right? Indiana has another professional sports team as well for competition, and it still works. Kentucky has nothing. There's no professional sports teams in Kentucky. This would be the one and only one. So it would work to me. And then they're blue bloods, but this isn't Ohio State. This isn't Ohio State when it comes to football or stuff like that. Yeah, Kentucky sells out, Louisville sells out. I get it, but I don't think when I think of like major college programs in general, Louisville and Kentucky aren't high enough on that list for me. Or I say to myself, well, there's no way somebody could come in and dominate or not take away from their steed. I think they'll be fine. Um, and if anything, it would be Kentucky, but we're not putting it in Knoxville. We're putting it in I'm sorry, not Knoxville. We're not putting it in where Kentucky is. We're putting it in Louisville. And I don't no offense to Louisville, and I understand the history and Patino and all the other stuff. I don't think Louisville's big enough where it would say, no, there's no way we could support a sports team. I just don't think that. And if anything, I think we'll bring the people together. So, like, you got these house dividers. Mom went to Louisville, dad went to Kentucky, sibling went to Kentucky, I went to Louisville, house divided. But when our Louisville professional team comes on, we can all come together, right? We can all come together and root as a family for this one team. And then when the college game is back on, we can fight. But when the NBA team is on, we all come together and watch the team. I think that would be beautiful. I think it works. And if they're smart, the team colors would be blue and red, right? Use Kentucky blue, use Louisville red. That would be the colors. I don't know what you would call them, the Kentucky whatever, or the Louisville whatever. But if you're smart, you play up on that rivalry where that's the whole marketing campaign. Like, yeah, you might be Cardinal, you might be a Wildcat, but together we're whatever, call them the Griffins. I don't know. Combine the two, right? Call them the Kentucky Griffins. I don't know. But together we are this team. Together we are, one family in this basketball crazy state. I think it works. I think it makes so much potential. It makes so much sense. That's the number one team on the list. Notice that they're the only city that's by itself because I don't think any other city does what Louisville could potentially do. Um, Again, the only thing you're worried about is the college teams, but I think they'll be fine. I think there's enough love for basketball to go around for all these teams. I really do. And again, if you have a house divided, mom and sibling are going to a Louisville game, dad and son are going to a Kentucky game. So the money's not being divided. So the money's not all going to Louisville or all going to Kentucky. It's getting split. But then when the family wants to spend their money together, they're going to the Kentucky team. Like, you know what I mean? It just makes the most sense. Um, yeah, I just think to me it just makes the most sense. It really does. It really, really does. Um, but yeah, I just don't. I think it'll be cool. I think it'll be a really good idea. But yeah, those are the top 5 cities. Technically, I think I gave you guys 15 cities in all, but those are the top 5 markets, I guess we should say, for an expansion. But yeah, that's the video. Uh, Again, I just want to do fun stuff like this from time to time, just to have fun, just have a discussion. What are some places you want to let me know in the comment section below? Some cities or some markets that make sense to you. Yeah, I would love to discuss it. All right. Well, I'm for Brett One himself. You can find me at Never for Brett Me. That's NEVA _4 BRETT _ME on Instagram and Twitter. We are the _dope blog on Instagram. We are the dope blog, all one word on Twitter. We are the dope.blog is our website. And because you're watching this on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And join us next time as we continue to discuss other people's excellence. Peace.